Alright, in this video we're going to be looking at Cornell Notes. So the definition of that, or why we're looking at that, is that Cornell Notes, they're sort of a note-taking system which allow us to easily organize our notes and sort of give us a good visual of what our notes look like, especially when we're watching videos within a flipped learning classroom or you're listening to a lecture. It's a way that we can organize our notes so that they best suit us for when we go back to study or help us when we're doing our revision, or even just putting it back into our own in words, which will help get it into our understanding base better using this system. And it's called the Cornell Note-Taking method because it was invented at Cornell University. So I'm going to give you a quick what I suppose the page should look like. So this is when we how we set up our page when we are taking notes, and you're going to set it into 3 sections. Okay, so there's 3 main sections. The first section here is what we call our Q column. Okay, so this one here, and this is where you put all your sort of key points. So you're only sort of putting your key points, and that's sort of only one word or 2 words, just your key things that you can quickly look at, which is a Q. In the main section here, we call this our notes column, and this is, as you can see, if this is your page, this is the main section of your page, and this is where you actually take your notes. So as you're watching a video or listening to a lecture, here's where you're going to be taking your notes, and you'll be doing that during doing that in point form or dot point. And you want to use you just putting those key ideas into that information, into those notes as best you can, and if you can, try to put it into words that you understand. So don't just copy down exactly what was said in the video or the lecture. Make sure you reword it so that you understand that. So we've got our main 2 sections there, which are the Q column and the notes column, and then at the end of that session, so when you've finished either watching the video or listening to the section, you will then draw a line down the bottom, and this is what will be your summary column. And this is probably the most important, because in the summary column, you're going to actually rephrase everything in about 2 to 3 sentences. So everything you learned before in the notes and the Q column, you want to rephrase everything you learned in about 2 to 3 sentences. So you want to think about, if I had to explain what I learned here to someone, how would I write that? How would I present that in about 2 or 3 sentences? And the other key thing you need to add in here is you need to make sure that you add a question. So we really want to make sure that in the flipped learning classroom that we're creating questions and we're doing questions, and we use that for our stimulus the next day, that we're having discussions. If there's something that you don't understand within a video, you make sure you write a question down in that final column. So it's going to look like this structure, and I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to show you an example of how we might set that up, and then in the next video we'll look at how we might actually use our Cornell note-taking when we're watching a video. Okay, so I've got my blank page here. I want to just show you how we would set this out. So again, you draw a sort of line at the top. So sorry, I don't have my ruler here, but you draw a line at the top, and here you would put your date. So this is what you would look like on your piece of paper. You'd put your date and probably the topic that you are learning. Okay, so it might be maths, a particular thing in maths. It might be, let's say, fractions or something. Whatever you're learning, you'll put at the top, and the date for that as well. Then you'll separate your page into those 2 sections. So you'll have usually around 5 to 6 centimeters from the side. So it's usually around here. This is your Q column, and over here is your notes column. So it's the main section that you go through there. So as you're watching a video, you mainly just fill in this section. So okay, I got some notes there. There's an interesting point there. Okay, I might do a drawing here, whatever. Okay, you go through, again, some interesting information. Once you've finished watching the video, you would then go back to the Q section, and you'll add in some key words that relate to that note. Okay, so it might be just one word. For example, if we're doing fractions, it might be division or something like that. You might write a keyword or a Q, which means you'd look at and get that more detailed information. Once you have done that, at the end of your piece of paper, or at the end of once you've finished those notes, you'll simply draw a line across, and here you're going to write your summary, and remember that it will be 2 to 3 sentences, and then you'd also write a question. So whatever questions you had throughout that video, you'd make sure you write that in there. So that's how you do set up a Cornell note page in your when you're doing notes in your book, and we'll look at that a bit more detail as we go through. Thanks, guys.